Midori Asakusa is inspired as a child to become an anime creator. As a freshman in high school, Asakusa drags her friend Sayaka Kanamari to an anime screening on campus. After seeing her classmate and amateur model Tsubame Mizusaki chased by men in black clothes, the two girls help her escape. As the trio regroups in a nearby laundromat, Asakusa discovers that Mizusaki also has a dream of creating anime, though her parents disapprove. The two exchange sketchbooks, with Asakusa showing skill in background and set design while Mizusaki focused on character art. The two then come up with a fantastical scenario after combining their drawings together. The two decide to try working on making an anime together, encouraged by Kanamori, who sees the venture as a potential moneymaker. The trio decide to start a new club to get around Mizusaki's parents, convincing a couple teachers that they plan to create a live-action film club, Eizouken. The girls find themselves in an abandoned, rundown storehouse as their new club room. Mizusaki and Asakusa imagine another fantastical scenario, and Asakusa ends up falling off a rusty railing while Kanamari tries to think of how to best budget the club funds. Asakusa tries to convince their teacher to get desks, but lets slip she wants to use it for anime, forcing Kanamori to step in and convince the teacher to let them use it anyway. The trio get the key to an old storage room and discover a past school anime club left behind drawings, cells, and equipment for creating animation. Asakusa and Mizusaki end up finishing the drawing of the wind turbine outside. The next day, Kanamori discovers that someone bought her footage of Asakusa falling in the club room. After earning 30,000 yen from selling the accident footage, Kanamori ends up spending most of it on tools and supplies to repair the club room. Meanwhile, Mizusaki and Asakusa keep getting distracted by various fauna that wander around their club. When they get stuck on the roof during a hailstorm, Kanamori breaks through a weakened wall to save them, only to discover the girls found another way down. Later, the Eizouken advisor reminds the girls that they will soon have to give a presentation to earn more funding and status for the club. After a lengthy debate, the girls decide to make an animated short film featuring a machete-wielding girl wearing a gas mask fighting a tank to impress their audience. With less than a month to finish their project before presenting it to the student council, Kanamori tries to cut down the scope of their anime short, while Mizusaki wants to hand draw every frame and Asakusa wants to add a story. After heated arguments and a failed attempt to loop in the school's art club on drawing backgrounds, Kanamori convinces the other girls to use flat colors and digital photography and animation cheats to save time. After pulling several all-nighters, Eizouken finally has their short film ready. The student council tries to immediately shut down the club after seeing evidence of their vandalism and other antics across the school, until Asakusa demands the student council let them present their short film. The short film blows the audience away. Even though Eizouken begins critiquing their own work, the student council approves their request for funds. Eizouken is hired by the school's robot club to make a short anime with their giant robot fighting a monster. Eizouken begins exploring an abandoned area underneath the school to get ideas for the setting and the monster. After getting some ideas, the trio falls through a weakened floor into a pit, but Asakusa uses her survivalist tools to help them escape. The next day, the robot club president loudly complains about Eizouken just as Kanamori enters and takes some photos for blackmail. Asakusa presents her ideas for a story, but the president argues for a contradictory real-life giant robot instead of a robot with a chainsaw arm that Asakusa drew. Eventually, the two groups find harmony over their respective near-impossible dreams and begin designing the robot for the anime together. After Eizouken's success with their first anime short, they find themselves with triple the time for their giant robot anime, but also triple the work. Kanamori mentions that the art club is now interested in helping them draw backgrounds, and she convinced the IT club to sell her a computer for cheap instead of having to use the school's computer laptop. Later, Kanamori uses the school council's impending inspection to coerce the sound club's sole member, Domeki, to use her skills and extensive sound effects library on Eizouken's projects. A few days later, Asakusa and Kanamori meet with the art club to explain what they need, but the art club's questions and comments prove overwhelming for Asakusa. Asakusa starts questioning her own storyboards that evening and abruptly shows her plan to scrap the giant robot. Kanamori immediately shoots her down, stating that they have too much invested in this project to change everything, and that Asakusa needs to stick with the robot. Asakusa keeps the robot, but redesigns its interior. As Mizusaki and Kanamori remark that Asakusa's motivation switch seems to activate at random. A young Mizusaki becomes inspired to draw movement based on her observations at school and home. Domeki moves most of her sound inventory into a nearby as Eizouken tries to get a storyboard animated and set up timing for the sounds and the Robot Club's voiceovers. The art club returns with their finished backgrounds, but Asakusa and Mizusaki find them riddled with errors and ask them to make some edits. As the art club leaves, Kanamori chastises Asakusa for taking on more work herself and threatening the project's timeline again. The next day, a torrential downpour forces the trio to seek shelter in a nearby bathhouse. After Mizusaki talks about her family, the trio then head to a nearby restaurant and eat some crawfish, while Asakusa dreams up another fantasy world. The next day, Mizusaki gets frustrated that the robot's chainsaw isn't animated enough to her liking. Kanamori tells her that adding sound to the existing animation will be good enough, but Mizusaki insists that she wants to animate it perfectly for everyone to see. With the school festival approaching, the anime is almost done, though Kanamori notes the dialogue will have to be done live as Mizusaki's edits give them no time to add it in. Meanwhile, Mizusaki receives word that her parents will come to see her at the festival and decides to make herself the face of the production to draw in an audience. On the day of the festival, the Robot Club helps Mizusaki advertise the anime showing, and Kanamori blackmails the HVAC club to keep the auditorium cooler than the other buildings to draw more people in. The student council tries to shut down Mizusaki and the Robot Club for their excessive display, but the Robot Club helps Mizusaki escape to make it to the show on time. At the screening, Mizusaki's parents approve of her work while Kanamori uses her image to sell DVD pre-orders. Later, just as Asakusa begins critiquing her own work, the Mizusakis are introduced to the trio. Kanamori reveals that Eizouken's recent successes have sparked a flood of requests from other school clubs to make an anime for them, but the DVD sales from their robot anime earned them less than 20,000 yen in profit, so Kanamori turned them down to focus on another anime that will sell even more DVDs. After a brief stop at an underground ramen shop, Kanamori shows off an abandoned storefront and talks about her past, how her family originally brewed sake, but nearby development forced them to turn the brewery into a convenience store. Then the development was abandoned and not enough customers came by the store, forcing her parents to shut it down. Kanamori swears to use every method possible to get more people interested in Eizouken's work, as Asakusa conceptualizes Eizouken's next anime with the town itself defending against an alien invasion. Later, Kanamori successfully convinces the town's business community to give Eizouken funding to make up for the student council garnishing royalties from Domeki's sound clips. Meanwhile, Asakusa suddenly thinks of a way to portray a realistic laser cannon, but admits she hasn't decided on a backstory yet. Kanamori announces her plan to have Mizusaki judge voice acting auditions for the new anime and gain more publicity when the student council appears and drags Eizouken before a panel hearing. The teachers at the hearing tell Eizouken that they can keep making the anime but are not allowed to profit off it using the school's name. Meanwhile, Asakusa struggles to think of a story that would fit her concept art, despite Kanamori's increasing frustrations with this delay in the project. Later, Eizouken goes sound hunting with Domeki, and Asakusa invites herself along to think of more ideas. Sawande, the student council secretary, appears at a nearby riverbank to ask Sayaka about Eizouken's plans going forward. Asakusa comes up with some interesting new concepts, but can't tie them into her original story, angering Kanamori. Asakusa continues to struggle thinking up a story for the anime, while the security club forcibly shuts down another school club working with Eizouken to copy DVDs before they can get to work. The Eizouken advisor plays handheld video games and encourages the club to relax for a bit. Asakusa and Mizusaki decide to goof off near a waterway in town, and Asakusa falls into a river before Kanamori drags her out. All the while, the trio are tailed by Domeki as she records the sounds they make. The next day, the school's vice principal cuts off Eizouken from the other clubs. Asakusa and Mizusaki take a train to visit a sick Kanamori at her home, and Asakusa flashes back to when she first met Kanamori in middle school. They were both loners for different reasons, but formed a codependent relationship. While visiting Kanamori at her sickbed, Mizusaki tells Kanamori about the situation, and Kanamori shows that their efforts have generated enough media coverage that the school would only embarrass themselves by shutting down Eizouken's project. Then Asakusa reveals she thought up a story that tied all her previous wanderings together about a war between humans and kappas. With this new direction, Eizouken comes closer to finishing the anime, but Domeki later reveals that something or someone replaced the entire audio track with a strange piano tune. After finding out their musician changed the main track at the last moment and no one checked, Mizusaki begins to panic. With time running out, Asakusa proposes changing the end of the anime to match the music track they have and keeping the dance party scene as a DVD extra. After working heavily through the night to finish their tracks, Eizouken manages to finish the anime, and Kanamori takes extreme measures to get DVDs printed in time for the Comet A convention. The trio manage to sell out their DVDs, and after the convention ends, they decide to watch their own finished product, Shibahama UFO Wars. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let us know by leaving a like. Subscribe for more stories and check out other stories here. And if you like anime music videos, I would suggest Unlucky Artist on YouTube.